Well.
Oh, don't pull that face, dude.
Alright.
Oh, no, not again.
You got something to say?
Good evening, everybody. Is it
evening?
Is it?
Is it evening?
Oh, we've just given something away.
What, will we upload in the evening?
I don't know. Welcome back to Ha No.
Welcome back.
It's been a busy week in the forest. We've been cracking on, writing stuff on trees.
Yes, we've got a whole, next month is tree month. We're just doing stories about trees. Not even scary.
Conservation is the aim of this game.
We're losing subs as we speak now. Better just get into this. This is Ha No.
Welcome back to Ha No.
This is
scary story. What you got for us?
This is episode 14.
Episode 14.
Yeah.
14, interesting number. Any significance? I feel like 14 is one of the least significant numbers around. Sorry, 14.
I think it's a cool number. I don't know
It's
why.
nice, but it looks nice, isn't it?
Yeah. I feel like, was there a football player with 14 on?
Probably. Whatever. Anyway, what's your story called?
Anyway, back to my story. Time for the title specifically.
Oh, it's my favourite part.
Okay. You'll like this title.
Do you think?
The title is Simon Says.
Oh, oh, you don't like it. My least favourite game.
Well.
Oh, don't pull that face, dude.
Alright.
Oh, no, not again.
Where do I begin? Well, the first time it happened, I was at Big Joe's. I got the usual, a mega slice, half pepperoni, half sausage, and a gulp Sprite. But this time was different. I took Georgia there on our first date night last summer. I was so nervous that she wouldn't like it, that she wouldn't like me for liking such a greasy joint. It was the land that health inspections forgot. As much grease on the tables as on the food, white tiled walls covered with Italian athletes, old-time crooners, and Joe with uncomfortable looking celebrities. I loved it. As it turned out, I had nothing to worry about. Georgia said she'd been there many times, that her dad went way back with Joe. She even got them to put some special sauce on ours. We cried with laughter when it dripped down my beard, and she wiped it away with a finger. From then on, that was us. We'd always stop by if we were in the area. Like I said though, this time was different. As we finished our crusts, a man came and stood close to our table. Very close. I looked up to a face I didn't recognize. Gaunt, pale, with deep-set eyes. A pencil beard framed his lips, which curled into a smile when I noticed him. His eyes widened, unblinking. He looked like a man who only slept because others did. I asked him if I could help. His stare continued for a moment, then his smile fell away, and he asked if we wanted a refill. I told him sure, and shuffled in my seat to gain some distance. He still wasn't moving though, and I could hear him breathing through his nose. He held the silence, and then Joe appeared, wrapping his arm around the disturbing man. "Well, I see you've met Simon then. Hope I don't have to fire him in his first week," he boomed. Joe's appearance seemed to jolt Simon, who laughed along and rolled his eyes, as if our meeting was perfectly normal. Joe told us that Simon was a friend of the family, then he changed that and said family of a friend, before finally settling with, "Well, he's here now, and that's all that matters." Georgia and I made our excuses and began to leave, but Simon stopped us. "Your refill," he said. His low, piercing voice matched his expression, which had returned now that Joe had left. I thanked him and said not to worry about it, but he insisted. He returned a few moments later and pressed the cup into my hand. "See you soon." I thanked him, though I hoped he wasn't right. The rain had gotten worse. We waited for the bus, but the traffic wouldn't budge. After 20 minutes of horns, we decided to start walking, dodging the puddles as best we could. Georgia said we should go back that Friday, get the calzone deal. I told her I hoped that Simon was a temporary thing there. I doubt I keep an appetite with him around. There was just something I couldn't shake. Like he was out of place. He didn't look like a server. He certainly didn't act like one. In fact, he didn't look like he should have been there in any capacity. Like a jigsaw piece that had been forced in where it just doesn't belong. It was at this thought, though, that I felt it. My head span quickly, sending me stumbling against a shop window. Georgia didn't notice at first. By the time she turned around, I was slumping to the ground. My stomach retched, my skin burned, my head hit the floor. The last thing I heard was Georgia screaming my name. The last thing I saw was my cup rolling into a puddle, and on its side, in small red writing, I read the words, "Simon says, Joe." When I came around, I wasn't sure if I dreamt it all. I wasn't in a hospital bed. In fact, I wasn't even lying down. I was in my shower. I tried to recall how I got there. Then I felt the searing hot water on my back and scrambled to turn it off. As I did, I caught a glimpse of my hands and saw that some of the water, just a few drops, were red. They quickly vanished down the plug, and there was silence. I stared in the bathroom mirror. To put it frankly, I looked terrible, like I'd not slept all night. Then, above my eyebrow, I saw a cut. The bleeding had stopped. I had no recollection of getting it, but it was big enough that I shouldn't have forgotten it. What had happened since I fell? The last thing I remembered was Georgia. I ran to the living room and found my phone on the table. It wasn't until it started ringing that I noticed the TV was on. Georgia answered as I scrambled to turn it off, but didn't get there in time. Georgia, can you hear me?" Yes, I can hear you. Where are you?" she said. Her voice sounded distant. "I'm at home. I've just been... Well, I don't know. I was with you and then I fell and now I'm here and... What happened?" She told me I lay there, in the rain, and then just as she went to call the police, I got up and began walking. When she tried to stop me, to ask what was going on, I told her to leave, apparently not even looking at her as I strode into the subway. She said my eyes were hollow, sunken and cold. She didn't know what to do and tried calling me all night, but my phone was off. She rang my parents and my best friend Tommy, but none of them knew where I was. I told her my side of the story, which wasn't much help to either of us. Far from sounding concerned, she sounded scared and said I'd never looked like that before, like a guy she didn't even know. I tried to explain, but had nothing to give her. She told me to call her back when I had it together again, and not a moment before. When she hung up, I could only hear the TV. PC-36 said there'd been a body found on the east side. It was 55-year-old Joe Sperano, better known as Big Joe. I grabbed my coat and slammed the door behind me. On the bus to George's apartment, I tried to remember the night before, but it was like trying to catch smoke. I could feel the memory, but it pushed back against my mind the harder I grabbed for it. My head hurt more each time, and I had to force myself to stop. She wouldn't answer her buzzer when I got there. If I looked as rough on the security camera as I did in the mirror, I almost wouldn't blame her. After trying for half an hour and calling in between, I gave up. I decided to wait in the cafe down the road. I got myself a seat by the window, determined to catch her if she left, and explain, or at least try to. As I sipped and stared, I wondered if she even knew about Big Joe. Had I been food poisoned? Had he? I knew the place wasn't the cleanest, but what happened to me felt worse than a dodgy stomach, and couldn't be enough to kill a guy like Joe. At that moment, I saw Georgia open her door. I reached for my coat, but my hand was numb. It flopped onto the table. I tried to lift myself, but my elbows gave way. My head sunk, my skin burnt. I already knew the feeling, and that made it worse. I looked up for help at the man standing next to me, and through my blurry vision, through the patches of swathing black, I saw Simon gazing down at me. He was holding a coffee jug with both hands. His lips curled into a smile, his eyes widened, mine closed. His whisper sent me to the void. "Simon says, Tommy." This time, I turned the shower off immediately. I caught a glimpse of myself in the bathroom mirror, red finger marks on my neck. My phone buzzed on the living room table. It almost slipped out to my shaking hands. 7 missed calls from Mum and Dad, 11 from Tommy's brother, and a single text from Georgia that simply read, "Meet me at the train station. 12. Only chance." At that very moment, I heard a knock at the door. My legs carried me out of the back door, over the fence, and into the street. Every muscle in my body ached, but I ran the whole way there. My thoughts ripped through each other, exploding into the next. I heard myself whimper out loud, heard the panic in my breath, and then I arrived. It was crowded, but I saw her right away, a bright yellow coat and a sea of business grey. She looked anxious. The crowd slowed me. I felt the adrenaline wearing off, revealing the shattered state of my body. Every step was agony. It felt like I'd ran for days, like my muscles were a taut string, and then they snapped My knees buckled, sending me tumbling into the man in front and onto the station floor. The crowd quickly gathered over me. An old woman fanned me with her newspaper. Her husband took my pulse, said he was a doctor, and told everyone to stand back. As I lifted my head, someone held a cup of water to my mouth and poured. The group picked me up and dragged me to a bench. In my right ear, the doctor told me to just keep breathing. In my left came the last words I remember. Simon says, Georgia. Then the familiar chasm swallowed me whole. These words are my confession, written for you here in my last moments of freedom before you come to take me away. I'm sorry I couldn't speak more on the phone. I'm sure you'll have more questions for me, but I hope this helps your investigation. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm sorry, Tommy. I'm sorry, Georgia. Simon made me do it.
Wow.
Simon says.
Oh, that was a fantastic villain. Without even giving us a lot of him, which is a testament to yourself. That was great. Also, what I really liked about that, I think out of all the stories that we've done so far, all 14 of them now, I think that was the most, and I mean this in a good way, I think that was the most creepy pasta of them.
Right, okay.
Do you know what I mean? There was kind of like enough like urban mythology to it that it felt very believable. I could see that written on like No Sleep, or if you guys are familiar, you know creepypasta. That's why you're watching this. Creepypasta.
Yeah.
Also creepypasta, Italian restaurant.
That's what I should have called it.
Yeah.
That would have been great for the algorithm.
Wow, no.
It's alright, I can change it. There we go.
And that story was creepypasta. But, no, but you know what I mean? It really had that kind of like, what I think is so good with good creepypasta is it gives you a sense of kind of like 21st century believism. Believism? Did I just make that word up?
Believability.
Believability.
Yeah.
Believism.
Believism.
Is there a gas leak?
I believe it.
But you know what I mean? There was a real, I could see that on a message board or like some kind of, just the whole body of it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and kind of just, it permeated its own urban legend effortlessly, which is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't meant to be he obviously was a villain, but he wasn't meant to be a sort of lone killer. I'd say. I don't know if I put that across well enough. But he was obviously a psychopath. But I wanted there to be some sort of connection to like a wider group.
Yeah.
Like almost as if he was placed there.
You left enough of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think you've left it open for that to be a thing, which is a good thing in itself. I never once thought like, oh, this is some kind of like, ethereal being that's just like popped up out and Joe's hired him as his server or some stuff like that. Yeah, you get kind of like little nods and allusions towards like, oh, he's part of the family friends, whatever. He came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right, and that was good. Like, dude, that's like some kind of mystical hitman.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like, I wouldn't say it's perfect crime, obviously, because it's still a crime, but in terms of the person who actually wants that person being killed, it's sort of like a human equivalent of a ice pick,
Exactly.
It's just sort of melts.
It's the perfect crime.
Right? It's like you can get someone else to do it.
Yeah.
And also it wasn't meant to be mystical at all, which left me with the explanation of, okay, it has to be human.
Uh-huh.
What kind of people would have that sort of power? Some sort of dark...
Some shadowy organisation.
Yeah.
No,
government. So it's like...
You definitely left that abashed.
Yeah.
Ready to go, Also, it very, very much reminded me of, I'm not sure if you've seen it, Jessica Jones, which is a Marvel. I've never read the comics, but I saw the TV show. And there's a villain in that called the Purple Man, I believe. He's played by David Tennant.
Okay.
And his whole thing is, he's like one of the most powerful kind of like psychics in the sense that like he's like a puppet master. And he kind of like makes people do things psychically. And I kind of got the same vibe off that. Not obviously the mechanics of that, but I got the same vibe because you hit on a few fears there, and the main one, which is terrifying to me, is not being in control of your own body.
Yeah.
That's a very good fear just to kind of like pin it down with. And then obviously you've got a creepy little dude who big dude, breathing heavily, pouring your drug, and then next thing you know, you wake up in your shower covered in blood, and you've committed a murder. Who would have thought?
That's a very specific fear. That second one.
Well, I'm covering all the bases.
But that first fear, I definitely relate to that one.
Yeah.
I relate to that one.
I feel like there's a lot of you in there.
Well, possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely relate to it. I remember as a kid, I used to get really anxious about being framed for a murder I didn't commit.
Oh, dude.
Because I was always like, how would they know? And just that would stress me out. Like, what about, I was just in the wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, dude.
And the evidence was completely stacked against me.
Against you.
I was watching something just yesterday, actually, about a guy who spent 24 years in prison because the only evidence they had to go on was that the victim had bite marks in them, and it was like the 70s, and they literally just like took a teeth mold of this guy and went in court and went, look, and they literally put it into the thing like anyone's teeth would, and the guy was convicted and he just got out like a year or two ago.
That's horrific.
I know.
That's horrific.
The idea of obviously it's different with this guy because he did actually commit the murders, but that's even more stressful because you can't even be exonerated for that.
Exactly, because you did it.
You
did
did
the perfect crime.
Unless you were able to somehow prove that. But this is what this took my fear and sort of bumped it up because you can't even be exonerated from that.
Yeah, because you've done.
Like he's just and that's a confession letter. Like
then it becomes a moral thing. Then it becomes like a psychological thing. That becomes like, would you be
if they
responsible for that crime if you weren't conscious of doing so? There was that case with that guy who sleptwalked and killed his wife.
Yeah.
And that's horrific.
Yeah.
Just the thought of that is horrific. Like it's kind of being mechanically controlled by another force, albeit supernatural or actually scientific and physical.
But
because there's that. Oh my god, we're going down a rabbit hole. There's that drug as well. There's a drug in Brazil. Do you know about this?
Oh yeah, I've heard this.
You know the one where it's completely.
Is it Flacco or something like that?
Something like that, and you're not in control of your body, but you are susceptible to actions and direction. Yeah. And there's cases of people being spiked with it and then taken to an ATM, emptying their bank account and then giving it.
Yeah. No, I've heard about that.
To the person. That's crazy. And security cameras of them doing it. Mm-hmm. So it'd be me or you or whatever at an ATM, some shadowy geezers behind us, give you what do you mean? You gave them your money.
Yeah.
That's awful. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like that. Whoa, maybe that's what Simon used.
Could be. I when I pictured it, it was government stuff. I wanted there to be a link to the mafia as well, like some sort of mafia link there.
You definitely got that link in.
I don't know. Maybe they were trying it out or testing it out, or maybe, because obviously, at least Georgia had a link to Joe through her family, so maybe the narrator isn't even aware. He's outside of it, and he's become the hitman for this mafia group.
That's really the more we go into this, it's really good, man. You left those signposts there. Well,
yeah, but they were things that I was like thinking. I think I was just thinking them in the back of my head. Maybe I didn't explicitly mention them.
No, but I like that because that's why we can talk about it like this, and then it becomes richer and hopefully richer for you. There was going to the mechanics of it. There was a line in that was one of my favourite of yours so far in the show. I don't want to quote it verbatim, but he looked like the kind of guy who only slept because others did. Mate, good job.
Yeah,
that's a zinger. That is.
But
that's a zinger.
I feel like I know a couple of people.
That's what. No, I know.
I won't say on camera.
I could hear you saying that. I could hear you saying that.
Yeah.
You literally we've been in social situations where we saw people who are like, he's the only guy who laughs because he thinks other people do it.
Yeah, Like people who, we talked a lot about sociopaths, haven't we, before? Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's on this channel, but yeah, people who just do a regular job blending in, and something as basic as like sleeping. I was like, imagine if someone's so far removed from being a normal human that they have to they have to force themselves to sleep or whatever.
That's
It's just
horrifying
like,
in
yeah.
itself, because I loved sleeping. But no, you completely summed up exactly my mental image of that character, of Simon, in that one night. Yeah, you had many zingers all the way throughout that. That was from a technical standpoint. That was a fantastically well written story. Good job. And I loved the creepypasta vibe. I don't know if that was your intention, but I really got that from it. There was something very 21st century about it. In
There was
a very good way.
something before when you were saying about not being in control of your own body is a fear and stuff, and like can someone be implicated then if they're not in control or whatever? But like we have that in the law with treating minors differently, right? It's like if like a 3-year-old really hated their stepmom and like killed them and was like knowing what they were doing or something, we would treat them differently. We wouldn't send them to prison for the rest of their life. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we do have those mechanisms. We do as a society understand the difference between someone being fully aware of the consequences, and we kind of hit a cut when we go 18. That's when you're fully aware. But you know, replace the age, put in like chemicals or whatever, and it's like, at what point is someone?
It's the same thought experiment, isn't it? Whew. Wow, man. Simon says that's messed up.
What does Jack say?
Jack
says
scores on the door. Now I'm coming off giving you the highest rated How No story as of yet of all time.
I'm not expecting.
So this is difficult. You know, I don't want to. But obviously I've got to make it explicit that, you know, your last story, the Balkan. If you haven't watched it, watch it. Was fantastic. You know how much I love that story. So don't
No, not at all.
I'm already making my excuses.
I'd feel like that was cheapened if you went equal or higher, because like that meant a lot to me as well. So don't worry about that.
Yeah. I had a score in mind after it finished, and I think that's the one that I'm happy with for sure.
Okay.
I think you did many things different with it, and I think from a technical standpoint, that was a one-up. That was great, and also I think you kind of intrinsically hit on a lot of fears without me realising it until afterwards, which I think is also a really good thing. Do you know what I mean? To kind of like effortlessly lead me through by my hand, like poor old what's his name?
Who?
The narrator.
No,
he doesn't have a name.
I was having another decimal point with that. No, I'm kidding.
But it feels right. 7.8.
I think that's very fair. I was going to give myself a 7.7. Not when I was writing it. I wasn't like, I'm going to bash out a 7.7 here. And then there's like a paragraph that's too good. I'm like, get rid of that. But just like, it was a story that I wanted to tell. And
yeah, you could tell you wanted to tell it as well. Which is a good thing.
And when I got it out and I read it back, I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
And
No, fantastic, really, and from a horror perspective, up there, which is, I think, is the whole point of this, right? You know,
yeah,
I was spooked.
Yeah, it creeps me out. I don't know. We're still trying to figure out what everyone here is like really creeped out about. I've noticed a lot of people will share their own stories about what happened to them.
Yes.
They'll say, "Oh, this reminds me of this time," or dream ones. They'll say, "Oh, I had a dream or a nightmare like that."
Yeah.
Which is really cool. So if any of this stuff reminds you of an experience you had, hopefully nothing as horrific as any of the stories we talked about. But yeah, do share them because we like reading them, finding out.
We do. It's very fun. Okay, and on that note, if you've got a story to tell us, make sure to send it to this address, hownostories@gmail.com. We'll be reading them out on our live stream. It's always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for stopping by our digital campfire.
I like that.
Do you like that?
Yeah.
I try and, you know,
that was good.
It is a digital campfire. And on the note of digital campfire, he's been Danny Burke.
Jack Finch. Let's blow out the digital fire.
Let's blow the digital. We've got to see Simon. Simon.